Hey yo everyone! With video games becoming increasingly more popular, more and more video game announcements happen than ever before. A lot of times, developers will announce that they're working on a new game to build up hype and attract talent to come and work on the project. However, this process of announcing a game a bit earlier than maybe you should have has led to some games feeling like they've been in development forever. Sometimes, it feels like those games might not even ever finish development. In cases like that, the term vaporware has grown popular to describe video games that are supposedly being worked on but don't really seem like they're actually getting developed. And that's what I want to talk about today. I've compiled a list of games that are currently stuck in limbo, or as we say in the video game industry, development hell. These are games that have basically gone radio silent and we have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. The development could be going swimmingly, or it could be disastrous. Sometimes it works out great, and other times you end up with skull and bones. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Alright, let's get it. Alrighty, at number 5, let's kick it off with an obvious one. Hollow Knight Silksong. Announced in February of 2019, Silksong started out as a DLC for Hollow Knight before Team Cherry decided it was big enough to become its own standalone game. The developers have said that Silksong will be considerably larger than Hollow Knight, with at least 165 new enemies and over 100 different checkpoint benches, compared to the original game's 41. Other than that, we don't know too much about the game. The character Hornet seems to be a bit more acrobatic than the original, and there is some new gameplay tweaks, but other than the very little information Team Cherry has shared with us, we know nothing. It's crazy to think that this game was announced 5 years ago already. At the time, it seemed as if development was going well and we'd expect to see it within the next couple of months or maybe a year. But for whatever reason, we haven't heard a peep from Team Cherry in months. Here's the timeline of the game's development so far. In February of 2019, the game was announced. The following month, Team Cherry shared details and images of the game, thanking fans for their excitement and the sequel. Fast forward 9 months to December of 2019, and Team Cherry provides another update by previewing a bit of the soundtrack and showcasing some of the new enemies. Now we jump all the way to February of 2022, 3 years since that initial announcement, and Team Cherry co-director William Pellin says that the game is still in development, with further details coming closer to its release. In June of 2022, Xbox held a showcase where they said that all of the games being previewed would be available within the next 12 months. Yeah, that was a lie for a bunch of different reasons, but Silksong was one of the games shown, however, and gave us our first real glimpse at the game. Unfortunately, the game was delayed in May of 2023, with the team saying development is still continuing. The mystery of the game's development has garnered so much intrigue that Jeff Keighley went out and squashed any Silksong rumors that might have been brewing before Gamescom 2024. So no one really knows what the deal is with Silksong. Hopefully the delays aren't the canary in the coal mine and we'll have an update soon, because the fandom for this game is starving for any sort of news. Now moving along to number 4, let's take a look at Beyond Good and Evil 2. The first game released in 2003 to stellar reviews. Then in 2008, a sequel was announced. That's right, 2008, when Obama was first being sworn into the Oval Office. Since then, the game's development and existence in general has been in question. In 2022, the game broke the record originally held by Duke Nukem Forever for longest development time of a AAA game at more than 15 years. Yeah, it's okay guys, they just need time to develop it into a good game, like Duke Nukem Forever, that famously great game that lived up to expectations. Beyond Good and Evil 2 has been in development for so long that Ubisoft re-announced it at E3 in 2017. Here's the full timeline. The original game dropped in 2003 and received tons of critical praise and grew a cult following. The game was considered a financial flop though, which is partially why Ubisoft waited 5 years before reluctantly announcing a sequel. In the years between 2008 and 2016, updates on the game were sporadic and unclear, with rumors swirling that Ubisoft had cancelled the game internally. Then in 2017, Ubisoft showed the first trailer for the game and announced it as a prequel to the original Beyond Good and Evil. The following year, in 2018, Ubisoft released a new cinematic trailer and held an exclusive presentation for journalists behind closed doors. Supposedly, there was a live demo for the co-op mode, but despite that, this was the last time the public has seen the game since. In 2020, a flurry of sexual misconduct allegations led to an investigation of Ubisoft, where it was found that the game's director, Mikel Ansel, had a leadership style that was considered highly unorganized and even abusive, causing development to backtrack or even restart completely multiple times. He left the company later that year, being replaced by Emile Morel. Tragically, Morel passed away in July of 2023 at just 40 years old, which certainly affected the development further. As of today, we don't know the current status of Beyond Good and Evil 2, other than Ubisoft saying that development is progressing well, whatever that means. On the bright side, Ubisoft has shown that once they're dedicated to a game, they'll release it, whether or not it's even that good, so I'm sure that Beyond Good and Evil 2 will be out eventually. Next at number 3, I got the remake of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Now this one is a bummer. I've never played the original, so I was really looking forward to this remake, but right now the game's future is kinda up in the air. The original game was developed by BioWare and was released in 2003. It became an instant hit with Star Wars fans and even inspired a sequel. I mean, come on. Role-playing games plus Star Wars, that just seems like a perfect fit, doesn't it? About 18 years later, the remake was initially announced in 2021 and was set to be developed as a PS5 timed exclusive by Aspyr, an Embracer company. Then, Saber Interactive took over development, but soon after was sold by Embracer Group, reportedly taking the KOTOR remake with them. This is a really weird set of events, and Saber Interactive hasn't provided really any other details other than the remake is still being worked on. Truthfully, I'm not sure if you could really say this game is in development hell since it's only been like 3 years and modern RPGs take a long time to develop, but the fact that the IP has shifted hands twice and then the studio working on it split from its parent company raises some concerns for me. I mean, that's gotta add on some development time, right? On top of that, the original trailer has been removed from the official PlayStation YouTube channel. At this point, we don't really know where the game stands. Development could be going smoothly, or they could just be restarting because of all the changing of hands as of late. Regardless of how production is going, one thing's for sure, this game won't be out anytime soon. Down to number 2, let's talk about the Prince of Persia remake. Initially releasing in 2003, the original Prince of Persia game is largely credited for laying the blueprint for the Assassin's Creed franchise. Set in a Middle Eastern palace, the game features parkour platforming, environmental puzzles, engaging combat, and a time travel mechanic that was truly revolutionary. Built using the Jade engine, the engine used for Beyond Good and Evil, Ubisoft's Prince of Persia game was a massive success for the once dormant IP and is honestly looked at as one of the greatest games ever to be made. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that a remake was announced in 2020. At the time, the remake was set to release in early 2021 for the PS4 and Xbox One, but after negative fan reception, was delayed indefinitely. A lot of people didn't care too much for the graphics of the remake, to which Ubisoft responded by saying that the visuals were a design choice to make the game stand out from other games because of its fantasy setting. I'm just gonna let that sit here for a moment. Anyway, Ubisoft made a statement saying the game would be delayed indefinitely to deliver a remake that feels fresh while remaining faithful to the original. In May of 2022, the game switched developers to Ubisoft Montreal, the studio behind the original series. Things were quiet for over a year before a social media post in November of 2023 said the development was progressing and had reached an important milestone. What is that milestone, you may ask? I have no idea. I don't even know if Ubisoft knows the answer to that question, to be honest. Then just a few months ago, in June of 2024, we finally got an update stating that the remake will now release in 2026. So we shall see. I'm not sure how much progress the original remake had before being scrapped and switching developers, so it's unclear how much work had to be done. Either way, it's gonna be a hot minute before we start getting some real updates again. Now down to number 1, it could be no other than Star Citizen. Star Citizen is the poster boy for video games that might never release. If you've never heard of it, Star Citizen is an MMO space sim with a variety of missions, spaceships, and its very own in-game economy that uses real-life money. Development for the game started way back in 2011 and at the time was shooting for a launch year of 2014. 2014! That's not the year it began development, but the year it was set to release. That's a full decade ago. Seriously, Star Citizen has been in development for so long that it's legitimately approaching the too old threshold for Dr. Diddyspect. Essentially, the entire game has been crowdfunded, and since its initial development announcement, it has raised over $700 million. After constant promises of updates and then scaling back features, Star Citizen has become one of the most controversial topics in video games. I think one of these days I'll make a super long video talking about it because it is just fascinating. Anyway, even though the game has had almost 15 years of development and nearly $750 million pumped into it, it is still only in alpha. It is playable, but in no shape or form has all of the features that players have been waiting for. Because of this, Star Citizen has gained the rep of being a scam and has even had multiple lawsuits filed against it. At the time of me writing this, we still don't have the slightest idea on when the game will release to version 1.0. And to be frank, I don't think the developers have a clue either. I would love for this game to release and succeed though, because it does have an exciting premise and people are clearly passionate about it. Plus, it would be a great story in the lore of the video game industry. Until then, I'd probably recommend not investing any of your hard-earned money into this. If they can't develop their vision with $700 million crowdfunded, then I think it's safe to say that their game might be a bit too ambitious. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Star Citizen will ever release? What about the other games on this list? What other games that are currently stuck in limbo have I missed? If you could pick just one game to make it out of development hell, which one would it be? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It means a lot. I appreciate you guys as always, and I'll catch you in the next one.